This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Tall Can Audio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside an all-new episode of the Tall Can Audio Podcast, coming to you from our studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. We're on social media at Tall Can Audio. Make sure you're following the podcast wherever you're hearing us right now. And I don't know, this is a little unusual. We're doing a show in the morning, which means no beers. I'm not sure I'm even going to be able to know how to do this. But Lloyd is here. What's happening today, Steve?
Well, I came right from work. Okay,
Yes. That's
why it's the morning here. You got to get me quickly because the body will shut down. I will be going nappy time.
It's nap
and
time
if I
coming
had
up.
a beer now, we would not make
Wouldn't
it
survive
through.
the show.
I would fall asleep as we do it. Good morning.
Good morning. And I wanted to ask you a little bit, a bunch of different things here, but I checked back. You haven't been here since July 2022, so it's been a little over a year now.
Oh, wow.
But the last time I saw you, I think, was St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, that went... that was supposed to be a quick little pop in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it turned into an evening. And let's just say I walked back and got my vehicle the next day.
Right.
On March 18th.
Yeah, I had texted you that day and said, Strides and Josh and I are going to go over to the Nita Beer Company if you want to pop in. And like you said, I thought we'd be there an hour or two. You'd be there an hour or two, whatever. And I think, honestly, everything was fine until Andy started dropping the free beers on the table.
Until Andy decided to sit down and just chat with us and said, I got this.
And he just kept dropping
and
them
then,
in front of us.
We're not going to say no.
No.
And my wife and I took an Uber.
Right. That's how it goes. So that was fun.
Responsible.
Yeah. So maybe it's actually best I'm seeing you in the morning this time, right?
Yes.
We'll keep things under control here a little bit.
It was good.
Yeah. Since we're not having a beer right now, I'm curious, did you try anything memorable over the summer? Anything sticking out to you that you might be able to give?
Boring.
To recommend?
Yeah. I haven't been adventurous in a while. I've been sticking to what I like. And in the summer, I really like the Calypso from Perth.
Yeah, okay.
I like that in the summer. And, I think I've told this before. I just love browns. Doesn't matter. I love it. Ashton makes a really nice brown. The Clock Tower has a nice brown. I like browns.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you have a bit of a history with Ashton.
Yeah. It's basically... it's the recipes from the old Hart Brewery,
right?
Microbrewery that I worked at when I was in high school in Carleton Place, and it was Lauren Hart, and he ended up the brown there is the old Harvest Brown that they made.
Okay,
and they had a Dragon's Breath Pale Ale, and the Amber at Ashton is the Amber from Hart as well.
That's a nice
beer.
I like
this is
the
going
Amber.
Back from over 30 years ago. Yeah. There we go. Just dated myself.
Yeah,
that was a great job I had at the end of high school.
Well, you've probably heard that Mr. Leversage is going to be taking a shift here every Thursday morning. And he was in last week to start that and brought me a couple of Ashtons, but they weren't cold at the time. So I've got them in the fridge. I'm going to have them when he's in to record this week. The good listener, like I said, can hear that on Thursday morning. I'm curious, as a man who has some history with Leversage, do you have any advice for me? I'm already getting some messages from longtime listeners to this show going, he's a little combative, right? Like he's sometimes coming right at you with some of these takes or putting things on the... I'm just curious. You've worked with him. Any advice on how to tame Leversage in here?
No, you can try. Lee enjoys being the contrarian.
Yeah.
He relishes that. And he's a big wrestling fan.
Yeah.
I think he's a heel fan.
He loves to play the heel.
He loves the heel angle. So once you embrace that, and the thing with Lee is, and he's not alone, there are sports fans like this, and I've called him out on this. He is a sports fan more so. He will sink his teeth into more the athlete or team that he hates, more so than the athlete or team that he loves. Like he is a big Dallas Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
Loves the Dallas Cowboys. But, pick a team that he despises. He despises that team more than he loves the Dallas Cowboys. And so his rooting interest when he's watching sports, I think he gets more out of the hate.
It's rooted in hatred.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's rooted in hate more than love.
Okay.
And once you understand that's his logic, then you start to understand his sports takes.
Right. You can start to peel away the layers here, figure them out a little bit.
You got to come at it from the right angle, and then I get you now. That's good. I get it.
Well, this is going to be a bit of a challenge because I've never been known as much of a baby face. So a dual heel thing going on in here is going to be.
Oh no, you can't be the heel with
no,
him. He's the heel. You could try. You won't. No, no.
You're working a new shift ever since Lee left TSN 1200. You're working in the mornings.
Yep.
Have you pretty much become a bit of a zombie? Have you gotten used to it yet? Like, how long did it take you? Like, it's.
Have not gotten used to it yet. It takes some time. And
I remember asking JR about it, and he said you never really get used to it. You just get used to being tired.
I've in my career, I've done long runs in the mornings in the past.
Yeah.
Right. But I've never been like, this is it. This is what you do now. Welcome to Up at 4. So it's I'm trying to get into the rhythm of a consistent time of day. You got to have a quick nap.
Right.
And you can't have it too long. If you nap too long, then you can't fall asleep at night. Right. And then because of the business that we're in, it's not like I can just I'm going to bed at 8:30. Well, no, we talk sports every morning. We're watching sports. So I got to stay up and watch the relevant sports, right? To talk about it the next morning starting at 6 a.m. So it's a delicate balance of trying to make sure you get at least a few consecutive hours before you roll into work. But also it's all about trying to get your nap down. And anybody that's worked morning radio, that's done it for a long time, there are people I know that have done it for a long time, like not the same genre, but it's just like clockwork. Their body does get used to it. It's like, oh, must be that time of day. Time to go. It's like going back to kindergarten. Time for nap. Time for my nap. Or I'm going to be cranky. Better get my nap in. So I'm still trying to get some consistency with that. So sometimes it shuts down. Sometimes it doesn't. So
how does it work at night? Like, obviously you have to make it to the end of the Sens game or to the end of the Blue Jays game. Are you adventurous ever drifting into that late game, or is that just a total no-go?
I'll try sometimes, but then I've got myself a nice kind of like recliner now, and I do the old man chortle awake. It's like, well, I guess it is time. Yeah, time for me to mosey on upstairs. Right. I tried.
Yeah,
I put in the good fight. Yeah.
What has the feedback been like, on you and JR working as a team, maybe between the two? Like, you both are kind of guys who, for the longest time, were used to steering the ship, right? You were kind of the one chair, whatever you want to call it, the pilot's seat. And now, was there, obviously you've worked with JR before, but was there an adjustment there, or what's it been like trying to...
absolutely. Yeah. You're working with somebody, like I've worked with them in the past sporadically, but now you work every day with them. But the good news is, like, JR and I have been friends because we got hired a month apart back in '98.
Right.
To launch sports radio in Ottawa. So I've known him forever.
Yeah. Right.
And he's been my boss for the last, how long's it been? It's over a decade since he took over the PD job as well. But there's a healthy respect between us because we've known each other so long.
Right.
So that's made the transition even easier. And the producer, Matt Hamer, I've known Matt almost as long, right? Matt and I were roommates together. We lived together for a year back in around 2000 or 99, somewhere around there.
Infamous post-college house
that
you told us
No,
about?
it's different. I got a lot of sordid stories, unfortunately. But, we were roommates for a year back in the day as well. And Matt's a great guy. So it's been, you have to ask them. It's been easy for me because I know them so well, right? I've worked with them off and on directly over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
But now it's like every morning. It does feel comfortable that way because it's not foreign to me. I know these guys. Mm-hmm. They know me. The biggest adjustment day to day would be, to your point, I'm used to being the guy that steers the ship. Right. More so than not. Mm-hmm. And so now it's a different animal. Like I kind of appreciate the other role in a different way, in that you got to know when to speak, when to jump in, when to hold back, when it's your.
I had a thought, but he's teeing me up for something else right now.
There's a rhythm. Oh no, he wants to go in this way. Okay, don't force feed what you want. Okay, wait for that. Wait for your. So and I think that's getting a little bit better day by day. Mm-hmm. But that certainly is an adjustment for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I could see that being. What's the feedback been like from the audience? I probably know the answer to it, but to the American syndication stuff coming in.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody loves it. We get nothing but love on text coming in. And hey, listen, like I can't BS you on that.
No.
People people are frustrated. We did a listener event for the Sens home opener, like at our party mega suite that it's a 400 level suite. Listeners win to get in. We had a great time.
Sure.
JR and I were there and got a chance to speak to a lot of listeners, and it was a wide variety. Some of them brought their kids, some of them brought their buddies, husband, wives, whatever it was, and that a lot of the topic was about that. But it kind of, they love the station.
Yep.
Hardcore listeners, it's great, but listen. I hate this saying. It is what it is.
Yes.
It's this is well above me.
Sure. No, of course.
The call that I make, and most people get that. Most people do.
Yeah.
But sometimes we still get the odd text that'll come in, or somebody will say something and they think it's our call.
Yeah.
It's directly, and it's. I think most people understand it's not. I've
Big
made
corporate world that you're tied into.
I've made this analogy before. It's like walking into the grocery store and yelling at the kids stocking the shelves for the prices. It's like, okay,
that probably wasn't his call.
I just work here.
Yeah. Right.
So I thank everybody that listens.
Yep.
It's awesome that get a chance to work with JR and Hammer. But the midday part right now, yeah. I'd be lying to you. Like we hear about it.
Sure.
Most people are not huge fans right now of that.
It seems to have sort of blown up again in concert with the start of the Sens season, right? I think there was a lot of people probably holding out some hope through the summer. Okay, they always cut back a little in the summer, and people are taking holidays and whatever.
Yep.
Once the Sens start, people want their Sens talk all day, and so when they realize, oh, this is not coming back full time, I think that's probably. It seems to, at least on my Twitter timeline, which for whatever that's worth, that's when it seemed to blow up a little bit.
Absolutely,
again, right?
yeah. Like a little bit in the preseason,
right?
And then, but when the season opened, they played in Carolina on that day.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we had a lot of feedback.
Okay,
had a lot of feedback. So,
what's the feedback been like on the first week or two here of the actual Sens season? There was a lot of optimism coming into the season, rightly so. Guys locked up long term. The young guys are another year more developed. And I'm just curious, fans seem satisfied with the start, or what are you hearing?
I think if you talk to the hardcore Sens fan, that satisfied. It's been a good start. Like as we record this, they've got one game left on their homestand against the Sabres on Tuesday night. If they were to win that game, they go 4-1 in their 5-game homestand, and they drop their opener against a very good team in Carolina.
Yep.
So then you'd get off to a nice little 4-2 start. Nothing wrong with that. Here's the thing. You know what the record was after 6 games last year? 4-2.
Okay.
It was the next run to the 20-game mark that's like, whew.
Right.
So now is when, from this point forward, and I know 20 games goes beyond that, but I've looked at, ever since the schedule came up, when their wheels up and they go play 2 in Sweden. They're playing the Wings and the Wild in Sweden in November.
It's funny, eh? I looked at that.
Their record, because it's all there for them.
Yeah.
It's been a really 5-game homestand at the start of the year pretty much, right? A lot of home games. Look at their schedule. They're at home, and it's spaced out nice. There's not a lot of back-to-backs. You get a chance to use both goalies. It is there. It's there for them. No excuses to get off to finally a good start over your first 20 games rather than bury yourself and try to play catch up the rest of the season. So far, so good. But let's see. Let's see how this plays out.
It's funny when you look at that Sweden trip. I looked at a couple of the details when I was going through it. First of all, because the Leafs are going as well. It's the Leafs, the Wings, the Wild, and the Sens. And neither of the 2 games that Toronto's playing over there are considered home games. So they're not. The league did not want to give those cash cow ACC games away, or whatever, Scotiabank Arena games away. And the Leafs aren't playing the Senators over there. Again, another cash cow kind of game, a main event, right? A Battle of Ontario. So there are 4 teams going, but the Leafs and Sens won't lock up over there, and the Leafs aren't spending a home game over there. I just found those kind of interesting.
No, that's exactly. I think it's easy to figure out. Like for both the Senators and the Leafs' reasons here.
Yeah,
it doesn't make financial sense to play each other over there. It doesn't.
No, it's just weird to be flying over together and not playing off. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if the Sens fans seem nervous about that trip. That is sort of when the wheels came off. I believe in 2017 was right around that time.
Well, they were off by then. Pretty much.
They were off. Okay.
Oh yeah. Mid-November is like. Go look at the record of this team in November. Now, pandemic was different when they started in January, but it's just
unbeaten November that year.
Oh, it's in off to a good start now, but and this is a deeper team.
Sure.
This is the deepest team DJ Smith's ever coached. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And that's without Shane Pinto.
And he's missing his
Yeah.
his
So
3C.
this is still this team is positioned, and I like the way the coach has spoken about the group in the offseason, in training camp early this season. DJ Smith's the one bringing it up. He says no excuses.
Right.
He says no excuses. He says we got to be about winning. Like nobody's saying we're definitely making the playoffs.
Sure.
Nobody's made that. But I love the tone that the coach has set. And when he's been asked about will you coach differently, he says yeah. He says because it's about winning now. It's time to win games. No excuses. And he's got the proper depth in place. If somebody's not going, I don't have to keep playing this guy because we're chasing a game. And I know that my options on my bench to try to get some offense when we're trailing are limited. I don't have to play Thomas Chabot 31 minutes here. Jake Sanderson's a pretty good player. Got Jake Chikrin on the back end. And with the forward group as well. If somebody's not playing, well, take a seat. We got other guys here. So I think Sens fans like that, this new narrative, if you will, in that it's this isn't the perpetual rebuild. There's new owner, new set of eyeballs watching it all here. There are going to be consequences. This is about winning. This is professional sports. It's time to start winning some hockey games.
On the Pinto thing, are you, I know they're stuck here with the cap a little bit, and I don't know if we're just waiting on a trade and there's a deal done. It doesn't seem like that's the case. But are you surprised that we've gotten this far and it isn't done? Because I sort of felt like the beginning of camp, the beginning of the season, one of those pressure points would force them to do something. I said multiple times, on the show, I said multiple times, like, it'll get done. Like, it'll be done by the time the season starts. And I'm not saying anything now because I have no idea what happens next.
It makes no sense. Like, at the time when they ended up signing Tarasenko in late July, I thought, okay, that's interesting. You're spending pretty much the rest of your cap money. But I liked it because you're trying to augment the offense from when the DeBrincat trade. And on the surface, I liked it. I said, okay, this is a good move. You're not marrying the guy. If it doesn't work out, it's a one-year deal. Who cares, right?
Yeah, in that camp, you're sending guys down. Things get worked out. You'll figure it out. Yeah.
But still, they hadn't signed Pinto. But I liked it because I assumed that there was a plan in place for the rest of the roster. That, okay, they must have another trade because they've got to create a little more wiggle room here. And maybe they did. Maybe something fell through. I don't know. But the fact that you put yourself in cap jail with that signing, and we're sitting here pushing November, and a kid who is your third-line center, and if he's your third-line center, that probably tells you your team's on the upswing.
For sure.
20 goals last year.
Yep.
Right-hand shot, can kill penalties, can win draw. Like, who doesn't like what Shane Pinto can do for you now, and he's only starting his career? How he is not on this team right now is baffling. Yeah. It doesn't... This is a cap bungle. It is.
It is.
And whatever happened, maybe there's legitimate reasons. Sure. Oh, we had this in place and this fell through. Who cares? Nobody cares.
Right.
Fans only see good young player that can help us be better right now, and he's not on the team. That's all they see.
Yep.
And they have every right to be mad about that.
You just wonder, right? Like, it was pretty cool at the home opener, everybody chanting, "We want Pinto," but there was probably one guy in the building not loving it. Like, there was not a hole big enough for Pierre Dorion to crawl in there with Andlauer probably standing around him and maybe the owner's suite there or whatever. No. That's an uncomfortable moment for Pierre Dorion.
Absolutely. Listen, the buck stops with the general manager.
Yeah.
This is your team, your roster, your plan that you put together here, and you are sitting here now with, we're getting deeper and deeper into the season, and we all know how important the start was. Now, and then you compound that, the angst with the Norris situation, who did get back in the lineup and started with a bang.
Right.
Couple goals right away, but that's like, okay, where's this going? But the fact that Pinto isn't signed is still, I wish I had better answers for you. It doesn't make any sense at all. This has been a cap mismanagement. However that came to pass, that's the end result. There's no way you should not have him in your lineup. Like, he should be playing right now for the Ottawa Senators.
And his camp has been very respectful that nobody said anything. Friedman's reported a million times he has not asked for a trade. But at some point, the frustration boils, right? This kid's not going to sit out for a year for you, right? Like, at some point, he's going to say, you know what, if you can't figure this out, just... by all accounts, hasn't yet, but it won't be unreasonable when he eventually has had enough.
Thing is, he wants to be here.
Yeah, I get that sense,
he loves
too,
his team. He loves his teammates. Yep. He wants to be an Ottawa Senator. He is tremendously disappointed by this. But you're right. The longer this goes, like, all of a sudden here, Okay, the calendar is going to flip. We're like a week out from Halloween, right?
Yeah.
The beginning of November, 30 days in November. You're a Leaf fan, Nylander.
I know how that
You
goes.
played that game,
Yeah.
right? Wondering what's going to happen.
And then it did not go well afterwards.
If you
either.
do not sign a contract by the end of November, you can't play in the NHL this season.
Right.
So now the clock is now. I thought that's crazy. No way. But it's like, all right, we've come this far.
Right.
Like how much longer is this going to drag out? And this benefited the Leafs, in fact, in the long run.
It did in the long run.
But with the Senators, it will not with their cap situation. The longer you wait to sign him in season, the more Shane Pinto's cap hit is going to be this season. And you're already right up against the cap, and you're already put yourself in a situation where you played a man short already this year.
Yeah.
Hamonic went down. He took a shot in the hand the other day during the game, and I was thinking the same thing a lot of fans were thinking, and people follow this team. It's like, all right, what if he broke his finger? Now what?
Right.
Zub was hurt, and he was already out. You're already in cap jail. You're doing all these gymnastics.
At that point, Shabbat was there not a question mark around it? Looks like he's fine, but
you had to wave McEwen down to the minors to get Bernard Docker up here. You're already playing the game, and you haven't even signed Pinto. You're now another injury away from.
Yeah.
Like and they're not the only team, but they're the only team in this situation that's right up against the cap and so much trouble where they're probably going to have to play a man short at some other point, like other teams have, and they already have as well. But nobody else has a 20-goal scorer center sitting there waiting for a contract that can't play in your team yet because you're in cap trouble, and your cap trouble is so bad, now every time somebody winces during a game, it's like, uh-oh.
Well, the joke going around all day today I've seen on Twitter is, Craig Anderson is signing a one-day contract to retire with the Sens. Do they have room under the cap to fit this one-day contract?
That joke started coming in right away when it leaked out last week when Darren Dreger put it out that this was happening with Craig Anderson.
Quickly on that, it's a guy who spent a long time here, obviously, very popular with Sens fans. But the debate today on your show was the Ring of Honor versus the retired number. Do you have a stance on that? And I guess we should explain for people. Yeah. Ring of Honor is a notch below the retired number. Is that the?
Yeah, you get your number retired is the ultimate honor for a player that has played for a franchise, and other teams do this as well, and they might call it something different.
Sure.
There's another tier, and the Senators created the Ring of Honor, and they did this a number of years ago. And Brian Murray, for the longest time, was the inaugural and only inductee into the Ring of Honor. And then the pandemic hit, and they've kind of forgotten, and they put Wade Redden in last year.
Right.
So now it's like, all right, that's open for business again. We can talk about Ring of Honor people going in. Craig Anderson, for me, is absolute slam dunk Ring of Honor.
Okay.
Number, retirement, I'm not quite there.
Right.
I'll listen to the argument because you're talking about somebody who spent 10 years with the organization, far and away, with that sample size, the best goalie this organization's ever had. And the best compliment you can pay Craig Anderson, because we talk about it's not the Hall of Stats, it's like what a guy meant, right? Every time that they played in the postseason, when they were a relevant team, playing meaningful games in the playoffs, you never came away from it saying, ooh, Craig Anderson got outplayed by so-and-so. Like, he always stepped up. He beat Lundqvist, he beat Rask, he beat Price, and always gave them competitive goaltending on teams that were good because they were playoff teams.
Right.
And to me, that says a lot. That's why he's a slam dunk Ring of Honor guy for me. Was the number one goaltender throughout his tenure with Ottawa. Had his old injuries along the way here and there.
Sure.
But to me, Ring of Honor, no doubter. I'll have the conversation about number retirement.
It's not a laughable idea.
But I'm not quite there.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there.
Yeah. The other thing going on Tuesday night is this 16 games, all staggered. I guess for the most part, they're going to start every 15 minutes between 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And I'm curious about what you think of this. I think it's
weird. I think it's weird this time.
Yeah.
The time Tuesday night in October.
Random Tuesday in October. Yeah, no playoff races yet.
I don't mind
really,
the idea.
No.
In general.
And I think it would make more sense even on a Saturday, 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2, 2:30, like whatever you want to do up through hockey night, and you kind of make a big deal out of it. This, I almost wonder, it feels forced almost, like we have a Tuesday with 16 games and someone went, hey, what if we then staggered them? And that's fine because fans complain all the time. And it makes me a little crazy about, well, these games all start at the same time, so during intermissions, they're all on intermission at the same, like, that's not a flaw. That's their feature. They don't want you turning the channel. They want you to watch the commercials, right? And so that's the way broadcasting works. It's annoying, but it's not like the league has missed something. So they're going to do this once. We'll see how it goes. But I wonder how many fans get super excited about flipping between 16 different games, right? Like, how many people this is really going to be a big deal for.
This was basically, this is an American idea.
Yeah.
A lot of people at ESPN and the NHL, I've noticed on their social media feeds, have been comparing it to the red zone experience. Right. And so I think that's kind of the ideology, the genesis of it, that way. I don't mind the idea at all. It's novel, it's neat, it's a one-off. Sure. I just find it odd that you would pick a Tuesday in the third week of October.
Yeah. Well, that's where my point comes in on. It just happened. Everybody was playing that night, and we kind of came across it that.
So people that know, the Leafs and the Capitals play at 6 Eastern, and then the last game's Vegas plays at 11 Eastern, and it's every 15 minutes pretty much.
Vegas and the Panthers. I can't remember who Vegas is playing, but it's an Eastern Conference team, and you're like, really?
It's Philly.
Gave us? Yeah, okay, so you gave us the 11 o'clock slot. Like,
let me double check. I know you made me think. I'm pretty sure it's Philly.
It could be. It just, like, Leaf fans are annoyed that this is at 6 o'clock. I'm fairly whatever. I'm not excited about it. I don't really hate it. It's just sort of odd that we'll start at 6. I've noticed a lot of MLB teams have started to start games at 6:30, 6:40, so you're starting to get these different. I guess that's more for bringing your kids or your family. You get them home that 20 minutes earlier or whatever. That's obviously not what went into this one, but I don't know. It feels like one of those things that the NHL does that we'll do this the one time and we'll probably never hear about it again, never do it again. And
listen, I'm all for trying new things.
Sell it.
They're trying a new thing.
Yeah.
Maybe this goes very well and they get great feedback and they do it once a year.
Sure.
Again, but. Like
you said, though, maybe March.
Yeah, I'm never going to dump. I'm never going to dump on anything. Oh, wow, why would you? No, that's the whole point. You got to try new things.
I find it more odd. Yeah. I'm fairly indifferent more than I am pro or against it.
No, I know. I'm not like I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to start tailgating this. I'm in for all the games. No, I'm not there, but I'm not like, oh, this is stupid. Why are they doing it?
Yeah, I just it's sort of like, if you're going to do this, also maybe a little more effort on like some division games or some like rivalries. Like, it's all just sort of thrown together, it feels like. But we'll see how it plays out. And I'm curious. I'm sure you've watched a little bit. What do you think of my Leafs so far this year?
Oh, yeah. Your Leafs.
Mine. Although I'm not really sure how much ownership I want to put on them at this exact moment. 3-2, but fairly uninspiring to get there.
Well, let me ask you this, Matthew. Mm-hmm. How do you see the goaltending situation resolving itself? Who is Wall going to usurp and be the number one? Is that going to be through his own play or by default?
Yeah. Are we going to see Martin Jones this year?
Okay.
It's not been a very early on. There was a couple of weird things happening with Samsonov, like some crazy bounces in that Montreal game. And you're kind of like, you didn't look great, but but now it's been a few games and it's not the bounces at this point. It's been him. So we'll see how that shakes loose, but I think the Leafs have an incentive to see if they can make Joseph Woll the guy. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
They have him locked up for another year at $700,000. If you have a number one goalie making that kind of money, it allows you to do some things next year. So at some point, they were going to try to give him a run and see if he was ready for it. I am surprised it's happening already. But the opportunity has presented itself. Samsonov hasn't been very good. Woll was very good in relief on Saturday, so start him against Washington. If he gets blown up tonight, then you're back to square one, I suppose. But if he looks solid, then it wouldn't shock me if he gets another couple in a row here. But I don't think they're going to bail on Samsonov yet. You'll see Samsonov again here within the next week or so, I would imagine.
Well, and here's the thing as well. It was pretty active offseason. And, it's not just they've added many new pieces. They've added a lot of pieces that play prominent roles in their lineup here. So I think there still probably is a bit of a feeling out process here. Like, how is Bertuzzi? Yeah. How's that going to settle in? How's Domi going to settle in? What about Klingberg running your power play? Like, it's those three guys alone here.
Klingberg running my power play is the thing I'm least worried about. He is.
Well, you know what I mean?
The rest of the game.
Like, it's, and new GM, new set of eyes on all that. Is the Nylander thing going to become a distraction or not? I don't know. But like I said, this is the cop-out answer. I think it's too early.
Yeah.
To make a proclamation about what they're going to look like.
Never too early in Leafs Nation.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It was 4-4-2 last year, and the sky was falling. Like that was.
Well, no, it's those veteran players that they brought in as new players for this season, but it's also, Nye's coming off a 2-goal game and, going with the other kid as well to start the year. Like how
Matthews looked like a monster again suddenly after, not being as good last year.
Well, that's the thing with who's worried about Austin Matthews?
Right.
Nobody. No. I mean, that's not the problem with the Leafs getting over the hump.
Right.
Austin Matthews is just a terrific all-around player. Like he is such a great defensive center as well, the way he strips pucks, and it's like, whatever, don't worry. Yeah, we got a superstar guy. Now how the rest of the piece is going to fit and move in and around him. So, but new pieces, and we'll see how things do settle in.
Do you have sort of a general overall sense on what your expectation of this division is going to be? Because this has been the $1 million question, right? Would Boston finally step back and they go out and start 5-0 or whatever it was? Florida, are they the President's Trophy winner of 2 years ago, or the team that just scraped in last year? Tampa hasn't looked particularly impressive to start. Buffalo, Ottawa on the come. Detroit perhaps just a layer below that. How much turnover do you see happening maybe in the playoffs this year?
Oh, I don't think that the Leafs, the Bruins, and the Lightning are going to be 1, 2, 3, however configuration in the Atlantic. I can see another team slipping in there and being one of those the top 3 seed.
Right.
And early this season, the easy answer is like, this is the problem with Tampa. I mean, Vasilevsky, how much time are you going to miss? Right. They said maybe 8 weeks to start the year. Maybe. What if it's longer than that? Mm-hmm. And that's your goaltending that you're going like Johansson, Tompkins, like what? That's no disrespect, right?
A little disrespect.
But it's also a team that Tampa, because of the nature of being a great team for as long as they've been, they're cap victims.
Yes.
Big time. So it's
every summer you're just seeing pieces getting stripped away.
This team is not as deep as it once was. No. So more so now than ever, they need a goalie to steal games more often.
Right.
They don't have them. Yeah. If I'm a Tampa fan, I'd be a little worried right now.
Yeah. No, and you just sort of saw they sort of took a trip through the division here not too long ago. Played Detroit, played Buffalo, played Ottawa. It didn't look particularly good. Jonas Johansson actually played a pretty good game against Toronto. They put up 50 shots on him and looked like it was going to be one of those nights for Leaf fans, but they broke through late. But yeah, I'm not sure it'll be Tampa that falls off. I just there's enough up there, right? Kucherov is still what he is, and Braden Point, these guys, Hedman.
It's a depth issue.
It is a depth issue. You're right.
There's nothing wrong with Matthews and Nylander and Marner and Tavares. These are all really good players, right?
Yeah.
Riley.
Now it's David Kampf.
Now it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Like
Pontus Holmberg.
Where is the overall depth coming from? And I think you can ask those same questions with Tampa. But the biggest thing is the goalie. I mean, they need their elite goalie more so than they ever have in this incarnation of this great team that they've been, and he's not there.
It's a back issue, right? Like sometimes that's unpredictable. You don't know how he's going to come back from that. So there is some reason for concern there, no doubt. I want to ask you, because I know you're a baseball guy. How are you feeling right now about the Jays after the dueling press conferences? We had John Schneider out there. We had Atkins out there.
I'm not a Shatkins guy.
No, okay.
At all. I don't know. That was so weird. Like, okay, let's make the GM available Saturday, Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's fairly cowardly.
Let's do that. And it was a brutal availability. He came off horribly, right? And so then let's trot out Shapiro to try to get the genie back in the bottle a little bit. And that was I watched that one live.
Okay.
And that was very, very polished. It was just every pointed question that came, big smile. It's right. Say the person's name back to him. Well, Keegan.
Yes.
That's
yes.
And it's just
the biggest thing he did in that one before he said anything else. He came out and he said, I understand why fans are frustrated. I'm frustrated too. That was the biggest grind I've had in my career. Like immediately. Yeah, he's with us, right? He gets it. He's one of us.
Well, the biggest, and I think we all knew this. We're not stupid. Anybody observing this, what Atkins had to say about Schneider and let's call it the decision to make the pitching move when they did, and what Shapiro said was different. He did admit that there is a conversation amongst everybody involved in this, and it's like, all right, so what are we doing here?
Yes,
I mean, like, if you love your skipper, are you going to let him be your skipper? Does he have the ability to? And you can say, oh, no, we have these conversations, but in the moment, it's up to the, okay, fine, maybe that's true. But come on. If you're sitting there and you know where the chain of command is,
your boss
and you're the dugout manager of the team, and you're sitting in the room with Atkins, with Shapiro, other people in the organization about outrank, you're having this conversation, and this is the plan here. If you deviated from that plan, right?
Yeah.
Come on. And it didn't go well and you deviated, you're probably fired. Right?
100%.
For insubordination.
100%, yeah.
So don't sit here and tell me that, oh, no, he has all the right and all the wherewithal to make the decision he wants to make in the moment in the dugout. That's fine. This is just us game planning, and it's ultimately up to him. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure he truly believes that in his heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, it was ugly. And just at no point did they appear to any of them have their story straight. Right? Like, Atkins says, "Oh, I found out about the decision when you all did," and Shapiro goes, "Well, I knew it was coming." Like, well, what is it then?
I know, exactly.
Like,
I mean, and meanwhile, we're pushing a decade now.
Yeah.
Of this.
Yeah, they're heading into their
Let's
ninth
check in
season.
with Alex Anthopoulos. How's he been doing with his career since he left?
Playoffs
Is he okay?
Hasn't missed the playoffs.
Oh, didn't notice that.
Yeah.
No. Okay. All right.
So, what would you do now that we know all three of them are coming back? What's the approach over the course of the winter? Because this team couldn't score runs. You're going to have a bunch of guys leaving, right? Kiermaier's going to be gone. Belt's going to be gone. I imagine Chapman's going to be gone. Like, you're going to turn over a lot of your lineup here. And I'm not really sure, like, are you willing to bank on this rotation going that good and uninjured again for an entire season? The bullpen looks pretty good. It's got to be your lineup that you're addressing, but how many people are lining up to come be a part of what is clearly a fairly dysfunctional? And half the guys were pissed, right, and said so about how you handled the pitching. So are they talking to other players, to free agents about, whether or not they want to come here and be a part of that? I think I'm a little more worried this offseason than I have been in previous years, because they've always stepped up, right? They have always gone out and spent. But what if and it's not a good free agent year? Like, what are they going to do?
Well, trade route, you know what they should do? They should trade Varsho for a great young catching prospect and some depth in the outfield, is what they should do. Wouldn't that help them? Wouldn't that be great?
Moreno is not doing Shatkins any favors this offseason.
Gurriel's hitting a bomb now, too, in the postseason.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just...
Moreno just gunned somebody down yesterday at second trying to steal, and, like, he's been hitting like crazy. That doesn't look good at the moment.
Yeah, we took some text of the show this morning. People basically, every time I'm watching Marino play, they're Jays fans, obviously texting in and making Kirk references, and I just picture Kirk laying down to try to catch the ball or trying to leg something out. Like,
he looks like a South Park character trying to run one out down first base.
Oh, man. Anyways.
It's a bad scene.
Yeah, you're right, though. Is it the trade route? Do they try to make a splash that way? Reshape the... Because it was such a weird... Despite all that, what the weirdest part of the Jays season was that they're a playoff team, and that was expected. How they got there was like nobody saw them having one of the best pitching staffs in Major League Baseball.
Right.
And the offense being horse bleep.
Right.
Nobody saw that coming. I mean, and I think honestly the biggest concern is in the next couple of years, you got to make a decision. Mm-hmm. What is Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? What is he? Is he just a windmill that's going to mash sometimes? Or is he a superstar that's going to come up with these big knocks and be the heart of your offense and your lineup, like that fearsome guy in the middle of your lineup?
Well, and you've never been less sure.
What is he right now? Is he a guy that's going to...
Even on defense, Gold Glove, defensive first baseman to, I think, the second worst statistically defensive first baseman in the AL this year. Like, what the hell happened?
Like, guys like him can play 10 years and they'll play.
Yeah.
And he'll bounce around and help teams, right? Because they can be great for stretches.
Sure.
Lots of those guys.
Yeah.
Or is he a superstar? You got to make a decision on that in the relatively near future. What is he, and what do we allocate our salary? Like, what are we doing with him?
Right.
You got to make a call on that. That might be the number one question facing the Blue Jays over the next couple of years.
I think
what is Vladimir Guerrero Jr.?
I'm pretty comfortable with Bo. Like, I'm ready to pay that guy. Vladdy's
I like how he bounced back defensively because he was horrible the year before at short.
Yeah, and the way he hits, like he missed some time injury this year, but otherwise was still at the top of hits in the AL. Like I'm ready to pay that guy, but the gulf between good Vladdy and bad Vladdy is so huge that you just, how could you commit to that right now? Like with any kind of large outlet, it's frightening. The other thing that's been frightening this summer across our sports landscape is the Ottawa REDBLACKS and their record. I know you've watched football in this city for a very long time.
Seeing your lovely tall can audio number 15 hanging here in the studio.
It hasn't been out to the stadium in a while.
No,
it's gotten bad, and fans are pissed off. They're done making excuses for the organ. Like I said before on the, like, there used to be this thing where fans would at least defend, well, it's a nice place to watch a game, and they do a nice job with the presentation on a Friday night, and all that stuff's still true. But fans are done even offering them that as a
some fans that have been hardcore, and it's true, there's a lot of that still, that are still, I bumped into an old buddy of mine that's been a season ticket holder and goes, and is saying that in terms of he thinks the experience has gone downhill as well.
Right.
And that might be part and parcel. You can only watch so much losing. And if you're going to sit there in that losing football environment,
part of it's your mood.
You're going to start to nitpick everything.
100%.
But he's talking about the new side. They didn't have enough washrooms when they built the new side. He says, all I can smell is the porta potties now. I just smell them all the time. I'm thinking, well, maybe you wouldn't notice that as much if the team was winning.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? But the problem is this can't continue. Another season where they're just awful again. Like this is a massive offseason for the REDBLACKS. And Oseg knows this. They spend to the CFL cap. You know, Lansdowne is still a wonderful place to go and have a night out and watch the game. All of that is all true. But to continue to ask your hardcore customers, because pro sports is about getting the casual people to come in, right?
Yeah.
And they like the team, but it's a night out. It's fun. It's like that's a lot of your business. But a lot of how your team is portrayed is what your day-to-dayers think, your hardcores.
Right.
Season
this
ticket
is their
holders
number
as
one
well.
thing. Yeah.
The ones, Mike and Mike 2 and Keith that call our post-game show and yell at Duke. And like it's that stuff matters.
100%.
It does. And unfortunately, I went back and looked at the numbers. I was talking to AJ about this as well, and he reminded me, it's like, if you're old enough to remember, and I was a kid back then, like, oh man, this still does not come that close to 80s. Like, wow.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. Is this amongst the worst years in Ottawa football? You're saying not even close.
Well, it's in the conversation.
Okay.
But, like Super Season 88 and in and around that era, wow, man. You kind of forget how bad it was. And what made it even worse back then, the ownership, like, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. This has great OSEG that's a great ownership group. Like that's not the problem here. So at the very top, you're fine. It's like, how is this not filtering down to mediocre football?
Right.
At least it hasn't even been mediocre the last 3 years or so. Like it's just
generous.
It's been really, really tough. So big off season.
Do you think there's any chance that Dice gets let go? Because by all accounts, the players seem to love playing for him. Everybody speaks very highly of him. But I don't know where the changes start to come. Like Sean Burke has brought in a bunch of new players since he's got here. Most of them were met with, great. Like that looks really good. I don't know how it looks to turn over two coaches in 2 years. And
there's a personnel cap in the CFL too. Like how many people that you let go can you pay and still bring people in? Then you start to play that game. So having said, I would not be surprised if they come back with, Sean Burke's still the GM. Mm-hmm. Bob Dice is still the coach. Maybe there's a coordinator or two. You can't come back with the exact same staff. I don't think you can. And then expect to get the confidence of your fans. There has to be some changes.
Yeah. No, it's a lot like the Blue Jays where you're like, we need change, but where? Like, what are you going to do? Right? Like they're in a tough spot here. So
and that's always the comeback, and people that will defend it. Well, okay, well, tell me what to do. It's like, that's not my job.
Right.
That's not my job.
There are people being paid very well to know what
I'm
that
just
is.
the fan or a person that covers this team. That's not my job to figure out.
Right.
But I do know the status quo is unacceptable. So that's up to you to figure out how that's going to change.
Lloydie, I don't want to keep you too long from your nap, so we'll wrap things up here.
right.
I appreciate you making some time and coming in. It's always fun, and the next time maybe we'll find a time where we can get you a pint. While
All right, sounds good.
Maybe post nap time.
Always good to be
next
here.
time. All right, we'll wrap this one up. Don't forget, Lever Sage, for better or worse, back in here on Thursday morning. So check
Buckle
that out.
up.
Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're hearing
Chin
us right
strap.
now. Yes, and I'll tell the good listener here something I haven't told Lee yet, because unless Lee's here, he doesn't listen. So we have a bit of a surprise for Lee on this week's episode. So we're
looking
going
around
to
the room
spring
here.
that on him. Yeah. So make sure you're sticking around for all of that. For Steve Lloyd, my name's Matt Robinson. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you Thursday morning.
The hell is that?
Number one bullshit. Oh, number one bullshit.
Why are you so pissy?